Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode. My name is Coach Atlas, and I am a relationship coach. And today I want to talk about conflict in relationships, specifically intimate relationships. This has been the bread and butter of my coaching practice, is providing all of my clients with the right tools, strategies, practices to be able to handle conflict more effectively so that way we can have a more harmonious relationship. So today, I want to share with you a few of the prime tools that I've used that I also support my clients in using to help us increase our ability or elevate our ability to handle conflict together. Now, conflict, as we know in relationship, is common. It is expected, but it's also something that can deteriorate our relationship if it's not handled appropriately, if we are not specifically repairing that conflict on a consistent basis. So, how I want you to consider this entire conversation around conflict is from two lenses. One, conflict is a necessary part of your relationship. It's not going anywhere. And the point is not to get rid of conflict. The point is actually to learn how to manage it more effectively as a team. So when conflict arises, it's not to pretend like it doesn't exist, that we should shove it under the rug or that we shouldn't acknowledge it. We should actually face it head on as often as possible, because that conflict is what is going to create a lot of connection in our intimate relationships. And the second lens that I want you to consider is actually a three-part system from Terry Real, who's a very well-known relationship therapist. And he sees relationships as three parts: a harmony part, a disharmony part, and then a repair part. And we move fluidly through these three pieces on a consistent basis. But the challenge that we find ourselves is when we are not repairing conflict, when we don't acknowledge and fully embrace that third space, we live in disharmony. So whatever broke the harmony for us, that caused the disharmony, the temporary conflict or confusion, is not being repaired. So it leaves that specific area of our relationship in a state of disharmony. This is why it's important for us to get to that repair part, to complete the process. Because if we don't, things like resentment, anger, frustration, and even fights that include past events start to come into play. It takes us away from what we're currently arguing about, and we start to ammo ourselves with things from the past that are unresolved. So how do we resolve conflict? How do we get there? Well, there's a ton of different steps that we can take, but again, I want to talk about some of the ones that I've personally tried that have worked for my relationship with Gabby and that have worked for pretty much all of my clients. So the first one that really knocked my socks off when I was reading about conflict and learning about how to manage my relationship better was this phrase: feelings first and facts later. Now, I want to encourage you to know that none of these are ultimatums, but I want to invite you to open up your mind to consider the possibility that these tools can work. The first one being feelings first and facts later. Think about the last time you were in conflict with your partner. What tends to happen is the fight will prolong or it will reach a bitter end because we're just fighting about the facts. We're saying I'm right and you're wrong, and you think you're right and you think I'm wrong. And we're trying to get the facts of this situation so accurately and correctly that somebody will eventually win. Someone will see it the right way. And that person will then have the advantage in the conversation. They will have the advantage in the conflict, which means the person who got it wrong then would have to apologize. And that would make this person who won feel really good. And it allows this person to feel like they haven't done anything wrong because they saw it the right way. The challenge with that approach, that practice of fighting to be right, is that the whole time we're fighting about facts, we haven't addressed the actual problem, which is the feelings that are involved in the circumstance. So how did this help my relationship? Rather than fighting about the facts, I practiced stopping and asking my partner, hey, how did that make you feel? I got curious about how she was interpreting everything that had happened. So she would say things like, I feel hurt, or I feel misunderstood, or I feel attacked. And all of these feelings allowed me to see her as a human. They rehumanized her in this battle of facts. And they allowed me to bring compassion to the conversation, which naturally let my guard down. I felt less defensive. And then we were able to have a conversation where we reached a sense of real repair and reharmonization. But if we continue to stay on the fact-based experience, the fact-based fight, then we won't get to the root of what's really going on, which is both of us feel some type of way about these facts. And that's what's important. That is why we're fighting. And that's why we refuse to let our guard down. So I ask her how she's feeling. And then in return, she also would ask me. So it's not just a one-way street here. We both get clear on how it's making us feel so that we can rehumanize each other, remember love, and then continue the conversation in a more effective way. So tool one, feelings first, facts later, changed the game for me. The second one, I think this might have changed the game even further for me. Have you ever noticed that you say, I feel like you just never listen. I feel like you're not doing enough. I feel like you don't get me. I feel like. Have you ever noticed that I feel like blank is not actually a feeling? From my perspective, I feel like is a story. It's a perspective. It's an interpretation of the events. It's not a feeling. A feeling would be, I feel hurt. I feel sad. I feel annoyed. I feel happy. I feel something. I'm feeling something. But when I say I feel like, I am expressing an interpretation of the events. So the tool that I'm sharing with you is to own your story. So often we end up fighting based on a story that we have created in our mind about what's really going on. Now, our mind does this automatically. And most of the time, it's creating a story to ensure that we feel safe and that we survive. Now, of course, there's not a lion chasing us, so survival looks a little different. It looks like emotional survival. It looks like mental survival. It looks like relational survival. It's creating a story for us that would allow us to protect ourselves. So it creates worst case scenarios and it creates fear-driven stories because it has a natural negativity bias. It's based strictly on our survival. So what we want to start doing when it comes to conflict with our partner is taking ownership for the fact that our mind is making up that interpretation internally. It's creating a story, whether we're doing it consciously or not, and then we are acting based on that story. So let's say your partner is late again. They've been late a lot. In that moment, what your mind will do is it will armor you with the appropriate ammo to be able to protect yourself. So it will create stories like you don't care about me, you don't value me, you don't care about our relationship, you could care less about how I feel, and I'm sure you were out late because you were with another woman and you just don't care, you're just going to leave me. In so many ways, our mind has created these stories to protect us. So all we want to do is rather than act on them, we want to own them. We want to take responsibility for the story our mind is playing because we have no factual evidence that 99% of our stories are true. So we want to own that. We want to take care of that and say, hey, listen, the way that I'm interpreting this is that blank. Or the story that I am telling myself about this is blank. And it's taking ownership rather than saying, you were probably out with another woman, or you are never on time and you just don't care. They're not driven behaviors, or the stories are not dictating our behavior. The stories are simply a part of the process that we want to take ownership for, that we want to take responsibility for. That way, our partner can understand why we are so upset. What's driving our anger? What's driving the car, the metaphorical car that's ramming into you? Okay. So take responsibility by saying the story I am telling myself about this is, or I am interpreting what you're saying as blank. Did I get that right? Or I'm worried because I'm telling myself you don't care. So many different ways you can take responsibility for what's happening in your internal world. And that's crucial because that way we don't project our story onto the other person. And it allows the other person's defensive walls to dissolve so that they can also understand you, be open to your stories without saying, oh, that must be the truth. We're separating the two. Okay. So the first tool was feelings first, facts later. Second tool, own your story. Stop saying, I feel like. Take ownership for the story by saying, what I'm telling myself about this is. Two huge, huge tools. The last one that I want to share with you, the third one, is more of an awareness piece. A lot of times when we are fighting with our partner, we are fighting because they feel hurt by something we did or vice versa. And then we start to argue about our intentions. We start to say, well, I didn't mean to do that, or that wasn't my intention. We're fighting to be seen in the viewpoint that we always have good intentions, that when we take an action or we do something that we don't have bad intentions. So we explain ourselves. Sometimes we over-explain ourselves to prove to the person that although you're hurt, you being hurt was not my intention. So don't see me as a bad person. I don't want you to see me in that light. But here's what I want you to consider. Consider more the impact of your good intentions than fighting for your good intentions. Let me say that again. Focus more on the impact rather than the intention. Because while the intention can be pure, it can still have a negative impact. It can still harm. It can still cause sadness or accidental hurt. But the point isn't to argue about the fact that it's accidental, because if you haven't noticed, that's a losing battle. The point of any type of behavior is just to simply acknowledge, hey, okay, whoa, you feel hurt by that? Listen, I understand that that was my impact. Although it wasn't my intention, I understand how I had that impact. And you'll notice that I'm not saying that I had good or bad intentions. I'm acknowledging my intention was actually to go left. But the way you interpreted it or what happened on the other side was that the impact went right. Damn it. It looks like my intention wasn't delivered in the way I thought it was. So I understand that because I tried to go here and the impact happened here, I can acknowledge that that is true. I can acknowledge that that's a real possibility. And I can acknowledge that although I had really good intentions, positive intentions, that it had a different impact for you. I can honor that. I can honor that experience, and I can honor that there's maybe a different way that we could navigate this. Because here's the thing. When we are in an intimate relationship, we are in a cohesive partnership, meaning we are a team. So if we pretend like the impact doesn't matter, we saying, well, my intentions were good, so I don't understand how you could interpret it that way. If we go that route, what we're saying is, I'm not going to change the way I act. I'm not going to do anything about my approach. I could care less what it means for you. I care more about what it means for me. And what that does is it disrupts the ability to repair, and it leaves us in disharmony. It leaves us in that area. So resentment and anger and long-term frustration start to build, and those things can deteriorate our relationships, mainly because they lead to a fun thing called contempt. So focus on the impact and work with that rather than fight for your good intention, because the impact's already been made. So trying to go back and say I could have or I should have done something is impossible. The past no longer exists. Impact over intention every single time. And then you can work with that together. You can find the solutions. Okay, listen, my intention was to do this. How could I have maybe done so that the impact matched that for you? That's cohesive teamwork. That's understanding your partner, trying to work with who they are rather than trying to change them into being the same as you. Might work. Give it a try. Let's recap. So there were 3 tools for effective communication. The first one was feelings first, facts later. Feelings first, facts later. Second one, own your story. Take responsibility for the way you are interpreting things. So that way you are not attacking your partner with your story. And the third one is focus on impact over your good intention. Those are huge. Those are 3 of the most powerful ones that have amplified my partner and I's ability to reach repair faster, which allows us to come back to that third component, which is harmony. Think about that. Harmony, disharmony, repair, back to harmony. Give those 3 a try. Start small. Maybe start with the first one, feelings first, facts later. That's a good one. Or start with the other 2. There's no specific order, but I want to encourage you to try one for 1 week. Just for the next 7 days. Give it a try. You can tell your partner, or you can just try to engage with it and see if you get different results. I'm pretty sure you're going to. And then from there, you can start to create a different dynamic with your partner through these 3 conflict tools. Let me know which one stood out to you the most. And also let me know which conflict resolution tools you've used that you found a lot of success with. These are just 3 out of the many that we have available, but I tried to keep it as simple and concise as possible so that this process of getting better at conflict feels possible for you and it feels real for you and that it can actually be done. Let me know. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, tell your friends. Listen, I'm a relationship coach. I'm here to help. If you want further support and you like this content, imagine what it would be like to work with me. I have a lot of client success that I'm excited to share with you if you feel ready and aligned with starting that journey. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.